in European history.
À la Roumanie. Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have the legislative.
Siamo adesso insieme come
tonight. Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Zeker niet geweest.
The European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
À la Roumanie. Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have
Siamo adesso insieme come
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire
the European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
We cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have
Siamo adesso insieme come
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire
the European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
We cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have the legislative. Urgently,
Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme come
Tonight. Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Dat zeker niet geweest.
the European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
We cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have the
Bună ziua și vă mulțumim că ați sosit în această zi.
Thank you for being here with us for this day. Please be patient for a few minutes. Commissioner Cretu and Minister Nica are going to arrive here soon.
Atunci, două cuvinte despre de ce suntem aici. Sunt Iulia Badagherite.
I'm Iulia Badagherite, and I would like to let you know why we are here. We have come here for the Citizens' Dialogue. As you can see on screen, there is the information enabling you to be connected either by smartphone or by other means. We need these passwords in order to share the live transmission of the Citizens' Dialogue, which is the last one in Romania, the last one in the EU for this year. The European funds and the future of the EU are of particular interest to the Romanians. At least polls indicate 60%. Please do get connected on www.sli.do and hashtag H430, which enables you to ask questions in real time and then vote and answer the two questions which we are going to ask during the meeting, the Citizens' Dialogue. If some of the members of the public wish to listen for the English version, you can use channel number 2 and headsets. Thank you once again, and please be patient for a few more minutes.
aici să vină pe scăletă? De ce?
Am să vă rog foarte mult, dacă doriți, să ne simțim mai ca acasă,
Because we want to feel at home. Please, please come closer. You would be closer to our guests this way. And we would not feel that you are far away.
The healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have the legislative.
This is clearly a possibility.
You have that
gobierno, hagamos esfuerzos así.
More with the Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme.
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Passiert mit uns.
The European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
We cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have
This is clearly a possibility.
Gobierno, hagamos esfuerzos así.
More with the Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme.
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Passiert mit uns.
The European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
We cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have legislation.
This is clearly a possibility.
Gobierno a unos esfuerzos así.
Urgently,
Primo with the Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme.
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Pensez que
The European Union.
working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
we cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have legislation.
This is clearly a possibility.
Gobierno a unos esfuerzos así.
Urgently,
Primo with the Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme.
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire médecine. Pensez que
The European Union.
working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
we cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement extérieur de 44 milliards pour combattre les raisons qui font que les Africains fuient leur continent.
You are the best educated, the healthiest, the best connected, the most international, most European generation in European history.
We cannot have legislation.
Gobierno a unos esfuerzos así.
Urgently,
with the Secretary of State.
Siamo adesso insieme.
Et c'est cela qui a changé la façon de faire la Passiert mit uns.
The European Union.
Working conditions, animal welfare, human rights.
Ils sont à la Roumanie.
We can take a leading role globally.
we cannot build a society if we don't find compromise.
Nous devons nous occuper de l'Afrique, raison pour laquelle la Commission a lancé un plan d'investissement.
În sfârșit începem. Vă mulțumesc încă o dată pentru răbdare și vă rog să ne scuzați pentru această întârziere. În fine, suntem la un dialog.
We are here at a dialogue, at citizens' dialogue. You know, of course, how they operate, how they work. We are here to discuss. Our guest, Corina Cretu, European Commissioner for Regional Development and Minister of European Funds, Marius Nica, will be your host this afternoon. You will ask questions, of course, you will send them through slido.com. And, well, the ones that arrived later, well, my colleagues will tell you how to connect to this application. You will also have, well, as a rule, you will have two main questions to be put here in the room, and we'll expect your answers. Well, we'll have questions from you, but please put them to the point. Introduce yourselves to have true questions, but not opinions or comments. For those of you who wish to listen to this debate in English, you can do it by taking headsets for in the simultaneous interpretation into English. As I said, well, in the end, the colleagues from the media, from the print, will be able to ask direct questions to the Commissioner and to the Minister. I would like to ask them not to put questions during the dialogue. Well, the topic is the future of Europe and the cohesion policy, European funds, everything we can do so that soon the European European Union be a union for everybody with equal rights, for us here in Romania, for our co-citizens in the other EU member states. I told you that in a recent survey to Romanians, the most important policy, European policy, is regional policy. And of course, this is no wonder, because Corina Cretu is the Commissioner for Regional Policy, and she is, of course, coming from Romania. The second important policy is the CAP, because, well, this is no wonder as well, because our previous Commissioner for Agriculture was Mr. Cioloș from Romania, of course.
Mulțumim frumos. Ce vreau să vă mai spun este că, bine, știu că sunteți obișnuiți să...
Well, I know that you are used to following what's going on live or share. So this is the 360-something dialogue with citizens. And you can be proud that the last one, the latest one for this year is taking place here in Romania. You can watch it on the page of the Commission dedicated to the Citizens Dialogue and on Facebook. Also, my colleagues from caleaeuropeană.ro help us with the direct transmission, so you can share. You can, of course, comment. You can watch it when it's not live. I see a lot of students in the room, as you know. Commissioner Corina Cretu is an alumni of this prestigious university in the cybernetics faculty. And I take the liberty of greeting the rector, the dean, the vice dean of this university. And well, I will remind you that she came back to this school once again not to sign a paper or to lead another citizens dialogue. So we want us, and I want you all to greet and say welcome to Commissioner Corina Cretu. Coming back here, not as a professor, but as a mentor, a piece of inspiration, a source of inspiration. You probably know that recently the Commissioner Corina Cretu was ranked the second most influential personality of Romania after our tennis player, Simona Halep.
Să zicem că am să vă rog să îi zicem bine.
Well, let us welcome Commissioner Corina Cretu on a place where you are not going to be a student anymore, but a professor here on the stage.
Îi urăm bun venit și
we also want to welcome Minister Marius Nica, Minister for European Funds. Welcome here, please.
Și vom avea un invitat.
And we will also have as guest Minister Daya. Please, Minister.
Și vom intra direct.
And we'll jump right into the matter. I will ask the colleagues from technical assistance to put on the first question. Do you have the feeling that your voice is heard in the European Union? Please connect to slido.com and put there, enter the password. You have 1 minute to answer yes, no, I don't know. Well, these are the answers. I'm tempted to start with the Commissioner. What do you think about the fact that 48% of the people present here in the room have this impression that their voice is not heard in the European Union? Is this a surprise? Sorry? Well, it seems surprising to me as well. First of all, I'd like to greet you and thank you for coming here today. I'm very happy to see you. To me, this is always a source of emotion to come on a visit, on an official visit to Romania, because you know that I'm in charge still with 28 member states until May 2019, when we'll be left only with 27. Well, I am in charge with the regional policy, namely 289 regions. But being here in this aula, I, of course, have, I'm emotional because I graduated the University of Economic Studies, the Cybernetics faculty in 1989, just in time, because I had this historical chance to join the EU. I'm again very much surprised because the young generation know that they do not know, they do not have a term of comparison. My nieces, for instance, do not believe me when I tell them that in my time we couldn't travel to Belgrade or Sofia. They wouldn't have been able to pick a place of study, let's say a country. So for many young people in Romania, well, all this goes without saying. Erasmus program, for instance, the European funds, which represent the most visible policy, and of course I'm in charge with them as well. But I believe that since we are here in this academic environment, I would have expected that the benefits of our belonging to the EU be more visible. Anyway, this is a unique project on Earth with 70 years of economic growth and peace. So, and the period of crisis has been exceeded or overcome for the 9th year. There is economic growth. Last year we had the lowest unemployment rate in the EU, but due to historical discrepancies and gaps, we still have some land to recover. But as I said, I am in charge with an area and a region. For instance, we are now in Bucharest. Bucharest has exceeded the average, the GDP average, due to the efforts made lately in the European Union as a whole. So I do hope that we are able to persuade you that your voice is being heard. And this format of the Citizens' Dialogue was launched by President Juncker in order to have it, to make it possible and make our policy more visible, more tangible. Of late, it seems that we are kind of isolated in Brussels. We work there. Many of you came to Brussels, but not always were we capable of making our work known to the member states and to the citizens. I think, well, this could be considered a play or a game. Many politicians tend to say that everything that is bad comes from Brussels and everything that is good comes from the member states. Maybe we should be more honest and recognize that good things come from the member states because they belong to the European Union. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to give the floor to my colleagues from the government to voice their comments. Thank you, Mr. Nica, Minister of European Funds, without whom, of course, we would not have been able to unblock many things related to investments in cities, localities, county, roads. Yesterday, we signed investment contracts worth 300 million euros. I'd also like to thank Minister Daya. Probably the people from the School of Agriculture, I think, well, it had a different name back then. Well, they know so well what European subsidies mean for Romanian farmers. And I would like to thank him very much for his presence here today. Minister, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for the very beautiful words. And as a sequel to what you have said, I state in full face that we are not being discriminated in Brussels. Quite often, indeed, we find more understanding there than here in the country. But this doesn't mean that our voice is not heard. And I tell this in full responsibility. Myself and my employees, my staff, well, we sit on an equal footing around the table. Our opinions may converge or diverge from the opinions of other member states, but this doesn't mean that we then do not defend our own interest. I talked earlier to Mrs. Dragan about our position to the set against the EU. We are, our position is that of a member state that defends its rights as well as taxpayers, but also as a benefit state that benefits from European funds. Our task, well, is not easy. Never have we had the feeling that we were subject to a different treatment in Brussels as compared to the other member states, and in terms of the attraction of European funds and the negotiation of the future multi-annual financial framework. Thank you, Minister, as well. Thank you, Commissioner. And now I suggest we go on to the Q&A session. My colleagues in the room will pass on the mic. Well, Minister, I have a more direct answer. Brussels knows about us because I received answers from Brussels. 99% accession means that we have a voice. We have the knowledge, the know-how, we have the capacity to be persuasive, and we also have the will to get connected to the realities of Romania and of the EU. So we are there and they are here, as you can see. Thank you very much, Minister Daya. Now, the Q&A session is open. Please introduce yourselves, and I give you the floor now. There is a gentleman on the last row. Please pick up the microphone from my colleague. I'm George Enescu, and I have also fought in the Romanian Revolution. I have a question for Minister Daya. Two proposals and questions. One, if you think that it would be good for Romania to use the Sovereign Investment Fund in order to purchase land from Romanians, so that the land doesn't go to foreigners. And the second question, still for the Minister, so that our land doesn't get to foreigners, maybe for war veterans, for people who fought in the Romanian revolutions, and intellectuals who settled down in the rural areas. If there is land and money for the Mason temple or the Cathedral of Romania, this land cannot be, is not available for other purposes. Well, huge demand for Commissioner Cretu. If the law of social economy can include this category, quite hurt by various governments, well, the fighters, the people who fought in the Romanian Revolution. So this is my question, or these are my questions. Please, if you wish to answer straight to the point. First question. So in the Romanian Parliament, we are going to amend Law 17. We have the financial support, and we passed a piece of legislation referring to the purchase of land by the citizens with an 80% guarantee from the state, and 20% consists in the value of the land. Well, first and foremost, what you said, of course, is a matter of common sense. We have this in mind to regulate the legal status of the circulation of land in Romania so that you get an affirmative answer to your question. And second question, as regards and in connection to the first question, will deal also with the other funds, FSDI, as regards, well, your major interest and our major interest. Well, about your question, I'd like to say that these days we are very close to the days when the Romanian Revolution was started in Timișoara in 1989. Well, then it continued in Bucharest, and it gave us the chance we have today, the chance that our parents and grandparents did not have, to live a dignified and free life in Europe. As the Minister said, on equal footing with the other EU member states. Therefore, I'd like to pay my homage to all the people who died in the Romanian Revolution and condolences to the families who lost their kin. Of course, it is our duty as citizens to watch the future path of Romania in order to prove that all these people who died in the revolution did not sacrifice themselves for nothing. As regards that particular category of revolutionary, I think it's the sovereign right of each EU member state, of course, to make decisions. I cannot decide on whether they are included or not in the law of social economy. There have been a lot of misunderstandings and a lack of clarity about who should be put in this category or not. Of course, this is not my speciality, my special field. And the question about the people in rural areas. I worked in close cooperation with Commissioner Hogan and all the other ministers in the in the European Commission and the member states in the Ministry of Agriculture, so that the link between urban areas and rural areas is not lost. So subsidies must go on, and the cohesion policy invests a lot in this direction. Until 2020, we want, from the Regional Development Fund, all Romanian villages have internet connection, and I think that this will contribute a lot to convince some of the younger people to go back to the Romanian villages that are depopulated now, or with a few old people left there. Probably if they had this possibility to connect to the internet, they could develop or set up a small business there and undertake some economic activities. I want to assure you that this is a concern of ours at the level of the European Commission. From the perspective of European funds, in 2016, the Minister has financed structures of social economy within the operational program for human capital. They could get funding between 40 and 100 million euros. And, well, in 2018, this will become even more feasible. Thank you. Now we have a question from somebody in row and third row, a gentleman.
Commissioner, please. I have a question about the budget of the European Union. The most important states of the Union make a contribution with the largest amounts of money. Why do they do that, Commissioner? How come Germany is the largest contributor to the Union budget, followed by the UK? And I think after Brexit happens, the billions that the UK had been allotting to the budget would be lost, and it is a problem. How come these states pay more than they receive? And then, secondly, let me congratulate you on your initiative. It is the first time that Brussels officials come to Bucharest to engage in a dialogue with simple citizens. Maybe you should actually change the motto, because officials in Brussels may not represent the voice of simple Romanian people. You would never have my voice. You should have the life of a simple Romanian, because otherwise you fail in understanding this. And then another question, the Ponzi scheme. What is the slogan that you talk about? The motto that you are the voice of Europe. You know what is this Ponzi mechanism? I think the budget of the EU works exactly like this. In the 10 years since Romania became an EU member, it made about 25 billion euros, but lost 4 million people. You are a commissioner. You are now invited to let us know what is more important, having lost 4 million people or having made 25 billion euro. What is more important for the EU, the money or the people? Moreover, the fact that large member states contribute to the budget of the EU with more money than they officially receive, while at the same time the small countries like Romania have become a market and destination countries for their products, and countries where there are no more jobs because all Romanians have to leave. How does the EU work then? Does it operate to the benefit of the people or to the benefit of the elites, of those who rule the Union? Thank you for the question. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for allowing me to clarify many of the myths which are quite common, especially in the media. Let me answer the first question. I never said that my motto is that of a simple person. I know that I have had some opportunities. I have taken them in life, as you would have had they been made available to you. I have worked, and I consider I am a person like other persons, while I may not necessarily have the same troubles and hardships as simple people. I do have a family in Romania, and I know how people live in this country, but I know that progress has been made lately. The European Union started 70 years ago upon the initiative of several member states to come together. Slowly, this union became bigger, and the Regional Development Fund and cohesion policies and the system that you mentioned have been established upon request of the United Kingdom, which is might seem quite ironical today, as the UK and other countries like Italy were faced with the closing down of mines, like in Wales, when thousands of jobs were lost. The UK said they would not attend the European Council in Italy unless a financial solidarity mechanism were to be established to the benefit of lesser developed regions. This is the one that originated the policy we mentioned today. There is a difference between the countries who have been using these funds for 40 years. We have celebrated last year 40 years after the European Regional Development Fund was established, and other states which have only been using such funds for 10 years. Unfortunately, many people from Wales were not aware of these issues when they voted to go out of the EU, they were not aware of the fact that they now have jobs because of the initiatives of the European Union in its former format, in its former shape, when they wanted to offer possibilities of reconversion and rebuilding of economic activities in areas where mines had been closed down and dozens of thousands of people had been left without jobs. So the cohesion policy is a type of financial solidarity, and solidarity actually entails the financial side. But the figures you have come up with are not the correct ones. According to the figures, Romania has been the recipient of almost 40 billion euros, including pre-accession funds, with a contribution of a little over 11 billion. So this means that we have received almost 30 billion euros since expressing the will to access the European Union, because pre-accession funds have included large amounts before Romania officially became a member of the EU. It is true that we have had a very low baseline, and very many physicians, teachers decided to emigrate. This depends on the policies of member states, of cabinets, of governments, who need to foster policies causing these young people not to leave any country any longer. As far as medicine is concerned, when I go to France or Germany, I see that many doctors are Romanians. When they are faced with a choice between a 600, 800 euro salary, which is now better, and a salary of 3,000 or 4,000 euro, won't they leave? Why would you stop them? This is one of the beneficial aspects of being a member of the EU, because citizens may choose where to live and where to work. On the other hand, each and every country must work in order to bring back these people, these intelligent people, these brains. Because actually other countries like Bulgaria or other countries in Eastern Europe were source countries, and now member states are looking for ways to persuade these people to come back. I also meet people who do traineeship programs in Brussels, which is a very valuable resource for governments, because they want to come back, but they fail to find a job. There is no place they could come to where they could apply whatever they learned in Brussels. That is why I think we need to find mechanisms for people who learn or who work abroad may come back to their countries. Of course, they do not to give up the living standards they will have acquired in these other member states when coming back. We have not lost them. They are Romanian citizens working and living abroad. The questions from the audience may not be heard, but this is an announcement from the interpretation. It is very sad, the Commissioner says, but in the member states, as you may know, people get money sent from these people working abroad. I'm not interested in having the Romanians sacrifice themselves. So please do not criticize me, because I am not the reason for which these people have left Romania. This is a phenomenon which has been in evidence in other countries as well. I am pained to see this, but I can understand that some families decide to live abroad for 1 to 3 years. It is their free will. I invite you to allow other people to ask questions, sir. We now go on to the next person, or maybe a question from Slido.
Deci, am să vă rog, haideți să trecem în partea dreaptă a sălii, dacă aveți o întrebare.
I see somebody maybe in the right side of the aula, somebody in the fourth row.
O întrebare, dar?
Paul Mirica mă numesc.
I am Paul Mirica.
Și
I'm a representative of the Employers Confederation, Agriculture, Services and Industry, which is a representative confederation with a national activity. Let me briefly state something about our visibility in Europe. I think we are responsible for not being visible enough in Europe. And I have two short questions about, two precise questions about European funds. For the past 2 years, I have tried, or we have tried, to contribute to the fulfillment of ex-ante conditionalities for the healthcare system. The first guidelines have been published for emergency rooms. And then the second set of guidelines is being published. We have tried to access funds, but county hospitals are afraid. They refuse to do so. Maybe the minister can clarify things. I have actually prepared some comments in writing, which I can hand over to the minister. And then the second question, which is on the slide as well, refers to the city hospitals or the town hospitals which are deprived of funds and might access EU funds, but it's quite difficult to access EU funds, unfortunately. And then a question for Minister Daya, whether the study of soils, as agreed upon with civil society, would be financed by the Ministry of Agriculture. And let me thank the staff of Commissioner Cretu, who always participated in a good way in the dialogue, as well as the representatives of the Commission in Bucharest, which is not the case, sadly, with the representatives of the Ministry. Let us take another question. There is quite an interesting question referring to the young people in the room. They wonder in which student entrepreneurs may access EU funds and to which extent the simplification procedure adopted December 12th might help them for the simplification for beneficiaries. Let me concentrate on the answer I can provide. Referring to the visibility in the EU, I think we're witnessing a very important moment. You know, President Juncker has launched a challenge, an invitation, so that all member states might contribute to defining the future of the EU in the 27 countries format after the UK would sadly leave the EU. I think that Romania has the chance to be part of the process defining the EU. We have been spectators so far. We were faced with regulations that had already been implemented, but now the future is to be defined, and we stand a chance, Romania stands a chance to be among those who establish the EU on new basis. The healthcare system is very important for me. I have fought a lot, and I know how important infrastructure and quality services are for the healthcare system. More than 1,000 hospitals have been modernized, have been retrofitted using European money, and now we have earmarked over 500 million euro for 3 regional hospitals in Cluj, Iași and Craiova. And we work with Minister Nica for investments in 280 community services and walk-in services, 35 emergency services, and we would do our best to have these works start as soon as possible. Feasibility studies are drawn for regional hospitals by the European Investment Bank, and we think that we would witness good quality works. I have represented the Commission in the first month after I started my term in office, and created this group of 12 experts of member states, which was led by former Commissioner Siim Kallas, the high-level group monitoring simplification for beneficiaries of funds. They made recommendations, and we then transposed this into a proposal of the EC. Last week, the negotiations between the Commission, the Council, and the European Parliament, the co-legislators, have been completed, and the simplification procedures would come into force as of the 1st of January. What is new? Each and every SME would no longer need to make lists of receipts for the payment of electricity charges and others, or salaries. We call them global costs. Estimates are made because we know that these enterprises have been working for years, and actually the amounts are the same. So bureaucracy may be decreased by means of these simplification procedures. We may now combine funds in an easier way, the structural funds, the Juncker plan, the agricultural funds, the cohesion and development funds. I think we may take a step forward. I am in favor of total simplification, and I would like the regulations after 2020 be simple regulations for the 6 European funds, or have a simple set of regulations so that the life of European beneficiaries may be as easy as possible. This is our main aim. We do not want to see that young people give up applying for EU funds because they think the process is too bureaucratic and too difficult. This process started in the current programming period and would come into force as of January 2018 and would hopefully evolve on a more radical simplification for access to European Union funds. This is a positive answer for 4.8 million for the state budget, from the state budget. So this is for the agricultural, chemical and soil sector. The priorities defined by Romania are the 3 regional hospitals mentioned by Commissioner. At the end of February 2018, the European Investment Bank would make available studies. At the end of March, we would start the procurement procedure for building the hospitals. Besides that, the Romanian state has required the European Commission and DG Regio to finance ER units and outpatient units with at most €500,000 for financing. Requirements were that such facilities be created next to the regional hospitals, and we can meet them and explain the mechanism. We can meet the representatives of hospitals and help them not fear this any longer. There was another question about financing for young entrepreneurs. Startup Nation and Startup Plus were started with money from the budget. Some of the Startup Nation program would be taken over by European funds, by Human Capital program, and Startup Plus financed the development of businesses by students and young entrepreneurs. Now we have 6 times more requirements than the current allocation. As the projects are being implemented and that some savings are being made, we're going to relaunch the calls so that other young people may get financing. Thank you. I see there is a young lady in the last row. I'm Petcu Diana Maria, a student with the School of Political Studies. I'm interested in the Eurozone, and I'm interested whether Romania is ready to enter the Eurozone and if there is any risk that Romania would go through economic crisis like in Italy and Greece. Thank you for the question. And then another question, which is probably the last one. The person to the left. I'm Eugen Cingu, Commissioner. I have attended the past 5 citizens' dialogues in Bucharest. You have attended 3 of them. This is the 3rd one. Some people have asked questions, and I have myself been talking about a particular issue, but I have failed to find an answer. I didn't say that I need to get a positive or negative answer. I just want to say that no answer is given. So I think we deal with a dialogue of people who can't hear each other. Please ask the question then. I have asked the staff and I have asked you to have a 10 or 20-minute meeting, and I would like you to... This is not a question. Let's ask a question, please. The last question. In the 2nd row.
Vă rog frumos să respectați ceilalți.
Întrebarea mea e de altă natură.
I'm a scientific researcher. I've been dealing with the technical field for some 40 years. I was born in the Novaci Polovraj area, which is familiar to Mr. Daya. Many committees have studied the legislation of EU funds, but have there been any committees studying how effective European funds are and use mathematics for that? You know, at one point, everybody would build a guest house. But in such areas as those where we live, you cannot build more than 10 guest houses, and you cannot have more than 5 or 10 employees for each. So this is not enough for 5,000 or 7,000 inhabitants area. The same for the closing down of mines or coal mines. They were closed down. We have tried to eliminate pollution, but not many jobs were created. So, because I'm familiar with Gorj County, because I go to visit my family, if they have internet in the villages, I'm very happy. I don't think of internet censorship, but I wonder whether internet-related businesses would still have them stay there far from anything. So let's think of a committee making things efficient, not just these complaints where we complain of the fact that we have lost 140 billion euro worth of gold along history. The Greeks do not have it. So maybe I think we need to be more efficient and see better management, jobs, stability. Nobody would be able to cause the 4 million Romanians to come back. So I think this is our aim. So what is the question then? How can we analyze, how can we measure how effective these programs are? We're talking about funds, we're talking about SMEs. We see them close down after 2 years or 3 years, but we need to have effectiveness. Commissioner, Minister, you have the floor now. So I invite you to be mindful of the other people in the room. Sir.
Vă rog frumos. O să trecem peste acest incident din respect pentru întrebările care au fost puse.
I am responsible for 28 member states, as I have mentioned. I have already visited 27 states. I think I have never come across such a situation. I have never come across a person talking in these terms as you are, sir. So if we want to be democratic, we have to be mindful of each other. We may have different views, I accept different views, but using insults and being aggressive, as we see so often in Romanian society, is not beneficial and is not going to help us have a progress. You travel abroad, you meet other people, you can follow campaigns for elections, but this is not a campaign for elections. This is a normal dialogue, so you all and those who watch us can be the better judges of that. Being civil does not mean that we have to agree on the same matters. We can disagree without offending people and without using such a language. The young lady there asked a very good question about the Eurozone. As far as I know, the NBR, Romania's National Bank, and Romanian authorities have been preparing to enter the Eurozone for years. We know there are examples of a too early entry into the Eurozone, which was detrimental to those economies, like a boomerang effect. Some economists are here, like the president here in the room of Nica. The European Commission has adopted the package on the Economic and Monetary Union just last week. The EC is offering technical assistance to member states who seek to enter, to access the European Union faster. I don't think there were other questions for myself, but when we deal with effectiveness, I think you are right. Money is not everything. Administrative capacity is even more important than money. We have seen that good things may be done with little money, and conversely, or on the other hand, we have seen a lot of money wasted on projects which are not of good quality. Of course, we have to show that we do things, but this should not be to the detriment of quality. We should not give up having quality projects. We've seen that we wanted to build motorways very fast. They then were closed down because they had to be rebuilt. So I think effective means making more with less money, making visible things that may be useful for citizens. In the past 10 years, over 60,000 jobs were created owing to the use of EU funds alone. And I think this is visible in the Romanian economy.
Thank you very much, Minister. If you wish to add something. Yeah, sometimes, of course. Well, you are outside the exercise when you meet with such a situation, but let's make this meeting consistency and respect. The researcher in you and the practitioner in me agree. And a very clear-cut answer with the Minister of Agriculture is that nothing is done chaotically. So, in full synergy with the European Commission, we do regular verification of the National Rural Development Program. The dynamics of life and realistic requirements are so important. There is just one valuable link between us. We both want the same thing. And in addition to what you said, apart from 2007 to 2013, you know that all member states had to fulfill conditionalities in order, well, to fulfill also the indicators in the program. If in 2007, in 2013, we had training activities, for the next period, programming period, we focused more on employment. In transportation, for instance, in the transport network, well, different things were made operational, and there were some discrepancies. So each program had to fill in certain conditionalities and the respective indicators for each conditionality. Now we get closer to the final question. Now just one last question here from the audience. Well, I have. Thank you very much. I teach European governance, economic governance in these faculties. So my question to you is why European subsidies for Romanian farmers are smaller than the French farmers, Italian farmers, and we have a commercial or a trade deficit coming out of food because we import food and food products. Thank you. Mr. Daya will answer, but you know very well that budgets are allocated based on certain indicators. So it was up to the position of the Commission, of the European Council and the European Parliament. We are in a very important moment now, and we have to fight over these policies. First of all, well, the cohesion policy and the agricultural policy. The common agricultural policy, the new budget will be introduced in May 2018 in the European Parliament. I do hope that we remain at the same figure, at least. This depends on us at the European Commission, but also depends on the way in which the member states fight in order to get important or significant allocations, starting with the government, the president, and last but not least, maybe first of all with the members of the European Parliament, because they are the ones who, in the committees, parliamentary committees, should fight for higher budgets for the countries they come from, and they represent in the European Parliament, the European Parliament being, of course, a co-legislative institution together with the European Council. So, as the Minister said, Romania spent all the money for agriculture. Why it is a lesser figure than for France? Maybe the Minister can explain better. Well, you know very well. You are a person, an educated person, quite knowledgeable in this field, and you understand as well as I do, maybe better, that Romania is in the second decision exercise at the decision-making table in Europe. As a full right member state, well, this was in 2014 for the policy until 2020. What do? We fight through all means possible to understand that we must have payment convergence. This is what Romania must do. We process this in all meetings we have in Brussels. We'll see when the common CAP is discussed, well, in order to get, in the end, to have this convergence. There are differences. Well, I even suggest my colleague and my friend to launch a debate on this topic, which is very important. After 2020, related to the common agricultural policy, because we can build correct positions for Romania. We'll also enjoy a status or a standing we'll have in 2019, and I ask Ms. Provoș to develop together this decision-making process together. I'd like to add something. Ms. Hall, well, the fact that you know that we had problems with research workers. I talked to Commissioner Carlos Moedas, people who were not paid at the same level with the researchers working in Western Europe. Well, I think this is also lies also with the member state to request the same treatment for the same work. In the case of research workers, this has been a major problem, and following the intervention of the Parliament, of European commissioners, this final solution was found so that all researchers be paid equally, on an equal footing. So Romanians being paid one level and British or French ones being paid differently or higher. I fully agree with you on this. We have to diversify the criteria to disseminate these allowances. There is this discussion, this debate, ongoing debate in Brussels on the payment per capita related to the GDP. I think we must take into account yet other indicators, like, related to the level of salaries, the unemployment rate, plus other indicators. GDP is the only one that was reached consensus upon, but the only serious debate and making allocations per country, we must ask if only, this criterion is enough or relevant. But Brussels is a wealthy region, but it also fights for European funds because it has poverty gaps. In general terms, GDP is not always the only or the most convincing criterion. I think that this also explains the differences that you mentioned as regards financial allocations. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Last question from us to you, so get ready for voting. When you hear the expression European Union, what comes to your mind first? You have a minute to express your opinion. Of course, you can watch on the screen the evolution of your answers.
Un răspuns foarte frumos, doamna comisar.
A very beautiful answer. What do you think, Commissioner? Diversity seems more optimistic. Well, I am quite optimistic after this debate because I see that there are many questions, there are many things, and it's up to us to explain them. And this shows that we must make more effort in order to explain the significance of the European Union, especially because it's 10 years since we joined the Union, and this meant for us as a society, it meant a lot, and progress was obvious. Diversity is indeed one essential feature or characteristic, because we are different indeed, and we started from different economic development stages. I focus more on development, unity, the opportunities provided, offered by the European Union, and last but not least on solidarity, because we live times when the European states are more selfish than 10 years ago, than they were 10 years ago. And we must make more effort to convince that this solidarity must stick. I'm a little bit worried or concerned about the divergences and differences between the net contributors countries, net beneficiary countries, And it is my duty, it is our duty that as a human, on a human level and bilateral level, we must prove that solidarity is a crucial word for the European monument in 2017-2020. I wish you all the best and happy winter greetings. Thank you very much. So this is the final word. I'm equally happy that you were able to shape the slogan of the European Union, unity in diversity. Thank you once again, and we expect you to come to join us to all the future Dialogue Citizens in 2018. Thank you and merry holiday, happy winter holidays.